Hello and welcome. In this video, I just wanted to talk about why combat power is not always the best way to determine how effective you will be in combat. Now, to a certain extent, it can give you a general idea of how powerful people are, but it's not always that reliable. At the start of the game, you will want to raise your combat power as fast as you can, because combat power restricts certain content that you can enter. So as long as you get up to 50,000 combat power, you'll be able to access all content. Before that, some content won't be able to be accessed as it has a combat power restriction. So for example, Door Attack has a 15,000 power restriction, and that's just one of them. Okay, so before I show why combat power is not always great, let's just have a look at what actually increases our combat power. The first thing is stats. So these stats come from our job, which is increased by our rank. They come from our equipment stats, so this is the stats of our weapons, armors, and accessories in both our main equipment slots and our support equipment slots. There's essence, and finally Sacred Tree Leaves. Our essence is from Essence of Battle tiers, which you get from defeating bosses, and Sacred Tree Leaves are ones you get from fishing and from buying from the shop with pearls. Besides stats, weapon skills and armor and accessory skill passives will also give you extra combat power. So if you level these up, you should have more power than, well, you will have more power than if you kept them at level 1. And the final thing that increases combat power is synthesis effects. So the higher the synthesis effect, the more combat power. So an extreme effect will give you more combat power than a massive, for example. And any synthesis effect will give you more combat power than none. And they're also just useful in battle anyways, as they can give some pretty good stats. Well, okay, so now that we actually know what affects our combat power, let me just say that this grid, although it has over 100k CP, it is pretty terrible and not really effective when it comes to actual combat. Now, some of the reasons for this is, first of all, survivability. All of these are front row weapons, meaning any high level content, I would not be able to move backwards, and I'd pretty much just die over and over again. If you look at our stats, damage resistance is almost non-existent, because if you look at the elements of my armor and accessories, they are all over the place, because I just used high stat accessories and armors with, well, the damage resistance doesn't, the elements of them don't match. Another thing is the command skill power, or CS, from weapons. This is also all over the place. Generally, you want to focus on one element for each of your elemental grids, as boosting one element will help the nuke from that element deal higher damage. In this one, I just have, well, there's what, 2, 4, 6, there's 7 element nukes here, but they're mostly different elements. And so the combat skill power is not very high. The subgrid here also doesn't really have the best elements, so they're all different elements as well. That's what doesn't really matter too much. And another thing is I don't actually have utility weapons in my grid besides the scythe. So there's going to be no extra buffs or debuffs from other staves. They're all just damage. Well, for the majority anyway. And if I had an actual grid set up with proper weapons for a mage rotation and command skill power set up properly, it would do a lot more damage and be a lot more effective than this. In all honesty, I would prefer to have a mage in my party with half the combat power that had a proper weapon grid set up and had enough element resistance, around 20% plus, to survive the boss mechanics, because they would be able to do more with that kind of grid compared to this one. And if we take a look at the stats, these stats don't look too bad for a mage, but if we just have a look at magic attack, because that's what will determine how much damage we do, that's 13.5. And if we just check our dark mage, you can see we already have a higher number here, 13.9. Let me just load this out. So even though we have about 14k less power, we can see we have more magic attack, have better element CS, so we've got 20% here instead of a random amount of like 3 or 6%. And our damage resistance is also 18%. So 18 is a little bit low. If I needed to survive boss attacks more, I would put this a bit higher. But you can see the majority of my support as an accessory is a dark accessory here. And my entire support weapon grid is dark as well. Another thing is that my armor is all mage armor, and these accessories are all mage accessories. So these passives, magic attack increase, magic damage increase, and also their stats are weighted more towards magic attack. These passives will help my mage do more damage compared to the ranking set. So I'll just load again. So this gives physical defense, and this gives HP up, and these don't really help me do more damage as a mage. So yeah, that's basically all I had to talk about. After you've raised your combat power to 50k, you want to start trying to fine-tune your class grids so that they'll be a bit more effective in combat. And that includes increasing your command skill power if you're a DPS or if you're a cleric especially, and maximizing your damage resistance as well, depending on the element of the boss. And this is especially useful for guardians, and well, it's good for every class really, but guardians especially benefit from this. They can tank a bit better. So that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.